The stench of scorched ozone clung to the clouds as the black birds came flapping over the cratered rooftops. I was hunched beside a gutted chimney, bandana pressed against my mouth, when I heard the first metallic caw. Only the Order of Vesper's biomech ravens made that serrated sound, half-rusted hinge, half-living throat. A moment later, their riders crested the skyline, leather-beaked masks glinting green in the chemical dusk, like a procession of nightmare saints. There were 7 of them tonight, each plague doctor perched astride a machine-augmented corvid big as a draft horse. Brass-ribbed wings hammered the air, scattering a smear of toxic fog that had settled in the alleys. Flaring tail fans sluiced off droplets of acid rain, and feathered turbines whined as the riders angled toward the public square. The ravens' eyes were luminous quartz lenses, clicking shutters that cataloged the ruins below, searching for the pulse of human movement. I had sworn never again to watch a dispensation, but survival outranked promises. Curiosity tugged me to the edge of the roof. The doctors dismounted with ritual precision, boots hitting the cracked flagstones in perfect sync. Each unslung a crook-necked satchel of cobalt glass vials. The contents glowed a soothing aqua, promising relief from the plague that blistered lungs and blistered skin. Citizens staggered from hiding, some in respirators, most in rags and coughing blood-flecked foam, and queued beneath the avian war totems. Desperation overruled fear faster than any sermon. I saw my younger brother among them, shoulders shaking with fever. My heart lurched. Mother had died 2 nights before. I had told him to stay underground while I scavenged. Yet here he was, head lolling, hands extended like a supplicant, convinced injection meant salvation. He couldn't know what waited on the other side of the needle. The leading doctor raised a silver megaphone, shaped like a trumpet's bell. His voice, distorted by mask filters, rolled through the square. For every wound, the order bears balm. For every doubt, the order brings certainty. Accept dosage, inhale peace. He turned, snapping gloved fingers. A raven's chest panels irised open, to reveal a fountain pump of serum. Thin hoses unfurled, tipped with stinger ports. One by one, the citizens clasped the hoses through the crook of an arm, or the soft underside of a collarbone. A hiss, a flash of blue, and they straightened as if yanked by invisible wires. Eyes widened, irises filmed over with the same aqua glow. Then the crowd went oddly calm, sickness seemingly forgotten. The megaphone voice resumed, gentler now. Proceed to the spire for shelter. Obedience completes the cure. Like marionettes, they pivoted and trudged up the avenue, no longer coughing, no longer screaming, just marching. I had seen the transformation once before, during the subjugation of District 9. 2 weeks later, those same cured citizens returned as enforcers, faces serene, bodies tireless, minds erased, except for worship of the order. The antidote was a leash, its formula a chemical covenant binding will to command. They called it Threnody. I had nearly finished synthesizing a counteragent when my lab was burned and my colleagues hanged. Now my brother swayed before a doctor, sleeve already rolled. Panic blasted through me. I leapt off the roof, catching a sagging clothesline, slid down charred brick, and hit the cobbles running. A boil-faced soldier tried to grab my arm. I elbowed him in the throat and dove into the line just as the stinger reached my brother's skin. I slapped it away. "He's allergic," I blurted. "Himmelite reaction. He'll seize." The plague doctor stared, mask lenses reflecting my soot-smeared face. His gloved hand hovered, calculating risk versus quota. "Step aside," he ordered. "The order accepts no exemption." "I can cure him without Threnody," I said. "I'm an apothecary." I have reagents. A second doctor advanced, voice lower. Your credentials? Lost in the purge. My lie trembled, yet held. The first doctor touched the side of his beak, transmitting some silent code. Behind him, the raven's wings rustled, gears tightening. I realized my outburst would end in either detention or execution, unless I provided value. I can improve your serum, I said quickly. Extend shelf life, reduce crystallization. My brother leaned against me, feverish eyes pleading. Take me instead. The doctors conferred via sub-vocal clicks. Finally, the leader gestured toward the largest of the ravens. Mount, he commanded. The order will evaluate your claim. I had never been so close to one of the biomech horrors. Up close, its black feathers revealed an underlayer of carbon fiber filaments and riveted plates. Furnace heat radiated from power conduits nested along the sternum. I hauled my brother onto the saddle behind me, and the raven's talons flexed. The doctor climbed astride another bird, gave a two-note whistle, and the squad vaulted skyward on a hurricane of soot and feathers. We pierced the toxic ceiling that smothered the city. Above it, the sky was a ghastly saffron. Factories in the distance belched vapor into the shield storm that perpetually rained acid. Wind stung my eyes. My lungs craved filters I lacked. The doctor handed me a beaked respirator. You need clarity to be useful, he said. Do not remove this. The flock angled toward the order's citadel. A needle of dark stone, jutting through the clouds like a bone through flesh. The spire. Windows glowed dull obsidian, absorbing rather than emitting light. Landing platforms spiraled the tower, each crowded with mechanical nests. As we approached, other ravens rose, exchanging coded screeches. The airspace felt like an aviary of armored judgment. We touched down on a grated deck. Docking clamps lanced from the nest, snapping around the raven's legs. Temerity, a name stenciled beneath its wing joint, shuddered, but stood docile. My brother was unconscious, head slumped on my shoulder. The doctor produced a handheld scanner, swept blue light over the boy's temples, and frowned. His vital indices are terminal. Only Threnody can stabilize. He needs time, I insisted. A detox decoction first. You pump that serum into him now, you'll lose both subject and sample. Very well, he said after a pause. 30 minutes. 2 orderlies in bone-white smocks carried my brother away on a stretcher. The doctor turned to me. If you fail, you'll share his fate. His tone made clear that fate could be many unpleasant things. I followed him through corridors lined with caged corvids in various stages of augmentation. Living birds with chrome beaks, skeletal frames wired to preserved hearts, massive prototype war ravens whose wings spanned entire rooms. The lab smelled of disinfectant and burned feathers. Monitors displayed ghostly x-rays of human brains overlaid with code, neural pathways rerouted by Threnody. At a bench, the doctor unlocked a steel case. Inside were vials of the turquoise serum, swirling with nanite motes. Demonstrate, he said. Extend shelf life. He expected alchemy on demand. My own counteragent formula was incomplete, but I had memorized fragments. I scanned the shelves. Alkaloid powders, stabilizing polymers, a rack of acid-resistant pipettes. I needed to stall until I could free my brother and sabotage their supply. First, I asked for a centrifuge and reagent Y9, claiming they'd slow molecular breakdown. While the doctor fetched them, I pocketed a neutralizing enzyme labeled acarine, key to mitigating Threnody's binding proteins. In a flask, I pretended to blend preservatives, while in reality I dissolved microfilms of acarine into 3 of the displayed vials, marking them with near-invisible scratches. The doctor returned, scrutinized my work. "You know your craft," he admitted, "but can you scale?" "I'll need full laboratory access," I said, "and assistance. We can ramp production 25%. "Convince the High Didact," he replied. "Your audience is imminent." I swallowed dread. The Didact was Mind Sculptor Supreme, rumored to have traded his own heart for an algorithm. If he peered inside my head, deception would die. Yet refusal brought a quicker death. We ascended in a pneumatic lift, whose walls were etched with scripture. In plague we find purpose. In purpose we find obedience. The uppermost chamber opened like a bud of black iron. At its center stood a man encased in a draping coat of raven feathers, mask fused to his skull. Tubes snaked from his spine into consoles that hummed with living data. The room pulsed with low infrasonic chants that vibrated in my molars. "Apothecary Leary Gray," the doctor announced, bowing. "She claims mastery in formulation science, beneficial to Threnody." Lights traced across the Didact's visor. He spoke directly into my cortex, a voice without sound. "Show me." Images flooded my mind. Every memory of mortar and pestle, petri dish, the moment I first saw a test mouse freeze mid-scurry after Threnody. I felt the Didact browsing, selecting, copying. He reached the places where grief lived, mother coughing crimson foam, father dangling from the purge scaffold, lab partners incinerated, his presence scorched. Instinct screamed to erect mental barricades. I summoned a vision of blending shelf-life extenders, purely technical, hoping to satisfy him with honest knowledge while concealing sabotage. The Didact withdrew. "Useful?" he uttered aloud. His gloved hand gestured at a panoramic window of reinforced quartz that overlooked rows of processing vats. "Assist us, and your bloodline survives. Resist, and you join the flock minus your will." "I'll help," I lied. "But my brother needs intensive care beyond Threnody. Let me oversee him." "Granted," he said. "Compassion fosters compliance." I was escorted to an infirmary where citizens recently dosed lay strapped to gurneys, eyes glowing aqua. My brother was isolated in a glass cubicle. Sensors mapped his decline. Oxygen low, fever climbing. A syringe of Threnody hovered in an auto-injector above his neck. I hacked the monitor using an old medtech bypass code, stalling the injector by flagging a false enzyme spike. Then I prepared my first real antidote, a concentrated dose of acarine plus neutral pH binder. I injected it into his IV, praying my theory held. Within minutes, his pulse eased and the flush receded. He slept, still ill, but no longer spiraling toward organ collapse. Now, to cripple the order, I required distribution access, the same pipeline the Ravens used to dispense vials. Fortune favored me. The shelf-life enhancement demonstration would take place at Vat Hub, where batches were loaded into ampoule shells for aerial deployment. I palmed additional acarine and a vial of mutagenic spores I had salvaged while scavenging weeks ago. Spores that thrived in toxic atmospheres and degraded synthetic proteins. The next morning, I guided a team of junior chemists through the improved protocol. We flushed acarine into the mixing line under guise of the new preservative. The Didact watched from a perch above, secure in trusting what he plucked from my memories. He could not suspect the addition would sever Threnodi's compliance vector, turning it from leash to lightning bolt of free will. Batch after batch rolled off assembly. Crates were fast sealed, loaded onto Raven's belly pods. The planet's yellow sun rose into its noon zenith, washing steel feathers in cadmium light. The launch summons rang. Dispensation flights to Districts 4, 12, and 15. Perfect. My brother's condition stabilized enough to move. I bribed a stretcher orderly with the promise of escape passage east of the quarantine wall. Together, we smuggled him onto Temerity, the flagship Raven, whose pilot status I had gained by virtue of leading the new formula trial. The launch horn roared, flocks erupted skyward, beaks splitting clouds. I slipped the harness, heart hammering. The masked doctor beside me nodded approval, unaware. Toxic winds whipped our capes. The city shrank to a festering scar. On approach to District 4, we released ampules that shattered into mist over the streets. From my vantage, I saw the azure vapor coil around citizens. They inhaled, stiffened, then sagged as if waking from a nightmare. The aqua glow in their eyes flickered out. Confusion dawned. Some screamed, others laughed. The leash was broken. Yet the Didact's fail-safes were not wholly dead. Side effects would thrash neural nets before healing. I could only hope minds recovered. An alarm shrieked through every rider's headset. The Didact had detected anomalies, non-compliant spikes in the telemetric feed. Pilots wheeled to return. I kicked Temerity into a dive. We scraped treetops, engines howling, then ducked into a warren of ventilation tunnels that riddled the industrial belt. Temerity's bulk barely fit, grinding sparks off concrete ribs. Behind, 3 Ravens pursued, screeching ultrasonic directives that bounced off the walls like ricochets. At the tunnel's terminus stood a waste incinerator chimney yawning skyward like a throat to freedom. Temerity's claws clamped my brother and me, firing repulsor bursts. We rocketed up the vertical shaft, flames licking our heels. The pursuing birds struck collapsing girders, their wings sheared off in showers of rivets. We burst through a grate into open sky, carpeted by rolling green, untainted forest beyond city bounds. Out here, the air tasted of pine rather than poison. I braced for sniper fire or drone intercepts, but none came. The Order's sphere of control ended at the quarantine perimeter. Ravens were forbidden to cross, engineered to shut down. Temerity shuddered mid-flight. Warning runes flickered. I whispered apologies and willed the beast onward. Surprisingly, it complied, as if its organic core favored freedom too. We landed in a meadow spangled with cobalt wildflowers. My brother stirred, eyelids fluttering. He coughed once, clear, no blood. Color warmed his cheeks for the first time in weeks. Tears blurred my vision. In the distance, the city's sky darkened with disarray. Ravens circling, smoke from rebel districts blooming. Citizens now awake would remember chains and plot vengeance. The Order would unleash horrors to reclaim them, but the seed of resistance was sown, and antidote caches hidden in each batch meant the uprising would grow. Temerity folded its wings and knelt. Feathers popped loose, replaced by sprouts of real plumage where metal had corroded under forest air. The creature tilted its head, meeting my gaze with an eye no longer quartz but living amber. I scratched its neck. "You're free, too," I whispered. It clicked softly, an almost content sound. Night drew purple over the horizon. My brother leaned against me, voice raspy but sure. "What now?" "Now," I said, glancing back at the city's silhouette fractured by rebellion. "We teach the world that plague's cruelest symptom is obedience, and the surest cure is choice." I looked to the Raven, then to the open sky, and we ride. Behind us, embers of tyranny glimmered like dying stars. Ahead lay an expanse, no map yet claimed, where toxic clouds thinned and dawn glimmered unfiltered. The future, uncertain and fierce, beat its wings inside our chests, matching cadence with the Raven's first truly unshackled flight.